Welcome to MCT Podcast Episode 5. This one is with a lot of the McGraw family. You guys know Chuck McGraw from Episode 2. He is the Chief Operating Officer. We have the CEO, Ryan McGraw, the regular guest on the podcast. And then brand new for this episode, we have Casey McGraw. He's kind of our head of marketing, but he has a lot of experience in auto dealerships. He's run multiple dealerships for a long time, and he is a part owner of the company as well. And last week he was at the NADA conference, and I'm just going to invite you right now to talk a little bit about that, Casey.
Yeah, thanks, Nolan. I was out in Las Vegas for the NADA convention. It's been going there for a couple of decades. And it was interesting. Obviously, I was the year before in New Orleans, a little bit different. There were no dealers there because of the snowstorm, but in Vegas, it was well attended. But what I found intriguing was as I walked around the conference centers, there was two large parts of it. I walked up down every aisle and went through, and basically I saw a lot of the same things, right? But the one thing that has really stood out in the last couple of years has been a lot of AI, of course. I mean, the world's all talking about AI. But in the car business, when you talk to people, there's a little bit of AI fatigue, because they're running into some things that just aren't effective too. So it's been interesting. Not a lot of new stuff there. Some of the same old stories and some of the same old people, right, that were there. But still exciting. Talked to a lot of our clients there. But, the interesting part is I did walk around, though. I was looking for new things with training since that's what we do, right, and then one of our products. And there was nothing new. I saw some of the typical old trainers there, and I saw a few programs there, but everything was basically the same, which in a business that it's trying to be innovative and new things, I was expecting more. So that's something that I found out. They had their conferences and their speakers and things like that. Got to see Alex Rodriguez. He did his talk one night. It was a lot of fun actually in the last day. But at the end of the day, it was kind of the same old thing, and that's kind of what I've heard from our clients. It was okay, but it wasn't a lot of new things there. And like I said, which kind of surprised me considering technology changes and things like that. So I found that quite interesting.
Did you actually say a few decades? Didn't you mean a half a century?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, bro. That's why you're the younger brother.
Hey,
It's been like a half. Yeah, I don't want to. I try not to. Talk about centuries when it comes to my life. So I try to avoid that. Decades sounds a little bit younger.
You are the older brother, but you know what's really upsetting me about this particular podcast right now?
Me? No, sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it's that these two gentlemen have better hair than we did.
Oh yeah, a lot better hair. They're younger, better looking.
Oh my God, I almost want to run my fingers through their hair, and I know that don't look at that the wrong way, but man, look at that hair.
Problem is they're smarter too, and that really pisses me off.
Yeah, that's true.
Say that on a podcast, piss me off. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that's pretty tame.
That's no problem. I think you can. Yeah, but we got to get rid of this facial hair. I think we should put it in our company as no facial hair in our company.
It makes me look mature.
Well, yeah, but I can't do it, so I have to look like a kid all the time.
I said that earlier. You're just jealous.
All right. So, hey, Casey, I'm just curious about, you said you didn't see much from a training difference. You saw, did you see the typical, individual trainers kind of thing, or did you not see many companies doing it? What is, just out of curiosity, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, mostly individual trainers, some of the same old names in the business. Didn't see a lot of activity in their booths, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the thing in the business, what we've talked about a lot, guys, is the fact that, how do you get effective training in the car business? And when the only thing you've got available to you is some of the, some trainers coming into your store for a day or two, which we all know doesn't last very long, doesn't change behavior. You've got LMSs out there. Yeah, you got those same trainers that have an LMS where you watch a video, take a test. We know that's not effective. So yeah, I saw some of the same old things, and I didn't see one new thing, frankly, what's been offered in the car business for a long time isn't effective, and we all know that because of the statistics tell us that.
Did you see anyone else combining AI and training, or is that just pretty rare?
No, I didn't see much with training. I saw a lot with service, right? I saw a lot with service. Conversational AI was a big one where, AI talked to customers. So I saw a lot in service. I saw a lot in marketing things such as that. But I didn't see anything that I came across that had anything combined with training.
Hey, Case, is that working? I bring it up. You brought up the conversational AI for service, and just out of the blue last week, I had called a service department, and I got that conversational AI, and it didn't get it right, and
No.
I was shocked that the store had the dealership had it, because when I asked for an appointment, and it went off the rails. It went in a different direction. So, was that really big out at the NADA?
A lot of them out there, but talking to a lot of people, exactly what you just said is what I'm hearing. There's a lot of going off the rails, you call it, or hallucinating, whatever the case may be. It's just not getting done what that the dealership wants. The real problem comes when a transfer has to happen. Then it really goes crazy. So it's not there yet. But we know, I mean, we all know AI is good, but it's not perfect yet. So it's got a long way to go.
Got it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You brought up Alex Rodriguez. I just want to mention, seen him a couple times in Ann Arbor because his daughter went to school at Michigan. So the Ohio State Week always draws out that family, which is really cool. I'm also involved in baseball, but
yeah. Oh, Alex he gave a good speech.
You went to Michigan, didn't you, Noah? I completely forgot about that because I was almost just about to yell out, "Go Green!"
Oh yeah.
I'd yell out, "Go Blue!" Don't worry.
No, when I yell "Go Green," you got to yell "Go White." Noah, come on, that's part of this.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be part of the podcast today. So, back to the training in the car business. You mentioned that other training methods just haven't been successful. You kind of went into that a little bit. How does our platform differ, and why is it so easy to sell?
I don't know if it's easy to sell, but it's certainly when we get a hold of the dealers, they certainly love it. That's for sure. But with the main thing with what we have is that training is so necessary in the car business, and it costs dealerships so much money. And to answer your question, we can reduce turnover drastically by training people properly. I mean, I tell sales managers all the time, you don't get fired by the person above you get fired by the person below you. So you need to make them better, right? And by doing what we use, which is, we train the trainers. We don't go in and train anymore. We teach them how to be trainers, right? And what we're trying to understand, and we're trying to teach these guys, is that the turnover in the car business is so costly. And you talk about expenses. NADA, which I didn't learn this at the convention, I learned it years ago when I went to Dealer Canada School with NADA, that they have a formula for how much a turning over sales staff costs you, and it's astronomical. One of the biggest expenses, if not the biggest expense, in a car dealership. And to put it in perspective, I ask dealers all the time, if you hired 10 new people today, 10 into the dealership, spent the time interviewing, going through that, put them through whatever training you have, which we know that what's available to them. They other training they have. I asked them 6 months from now, how many will be employed there? Time and time again, I hear 1 or 2, which means we got about an 80% failure rate. Now, is training the only reason? Of course not, but it's a part of it. It's a part of it. And so one of our goals is to reduce that turnover. If we can reduce that turnover that is at 80%, get it down to 70 or 60 or 50% or even lower, you're talking about a tremendous savings and upsell for the car dealership.
Hey, Case, you and I have also talked a lot about COVID and about how COVID hurt the car business. Helped it a lot. I mean, it was very profitable. Everybody made a ton of money because customers walking in saying, "Hey, just give me that one, and I'll pay you, $10,000 over sticker or more." But from an actual customer, but from a employee training and understanding of their job, how did COVID really affect the car industry?
Well, if you remember, I laughed so much when COVID first hit. Not laugh, that's a terrible thing to say, but I found it ironic, I should say, when dealers would call us, right? Dealers would call us at the beginning of COVID. They were scared to death because they didn't know what was going to happen. We got to get better at this and this and this and all the things. Then COVID got a little more into it. And next thing you know, like you said, they made a ton of money because there was no inventory. You could charge a tremendous amount over sticker for any car, used cars included. And they made a bunch of money. But what happened was people that knew how to do things in the car business stopped doing it. People that came in, there was no training going on. They never learned how to do it. So what is today is, frankly, people in the car business don't like me saying this, but it's the truth. It's the worst group of people I've ever seen as far as ability, because they haven't been trained what to do. Okay, so what I have found is and part of the thing I always say is that the salespeople, or the scary part is salespeople that came in during COVID that are now managers. They never have learned the effective way on how to do things, and so therefore they're in a situation where there's very little training going on. There's very little processes. There's very little customer service going on. So it's kind of a scary situation.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. 2020, obviously, no one was in person. You see the skills, dwindling, and we can see it in our scores. Whenever a new dealership joins on with us, you can kind of see very low grades across all of their calls. Usually they're below 50% according to our criteria. And after a few months with us, you can see 80s, 90s, and definitely a few hundreds across their salespeople just in a couple months of training. And that's just one of the things that I always notice when they come in. They start using our stuff. They wouldn't use it if it didn't work. They would try it, and once it starts to work for them, that's when you really see the difference.
Yeah, and COVID was a huge thing for our not just the car business. Let's face it. I ask a lot of people, did customer service get better or worse during COVID? They say worse. Has it gotten much better since then? No. Well, there's a problem. So we need to really buckle down in this industry and start training our people and start getting them better and teaching some of the old techniques which still work, and some of the new ones along with that. And let's face it, I mean, the reason why MCT is effective is because it's different. We learned also during COVID that video training doesn't work. I mean, I just saw something on the news a week ago, and not to insult anybody, but they said this generation coming up now, and their words, not mine, was this is the first time that this generation is dumber than the one before. And, I didn't use those words. It was on the news, right? And they said statistically, because of COVID, because of the backwards part of falling behind on education, that's happening. Well, the car business is no different. And I hate to say it, we've got less ability right now because they haven't been trained than ever before. It's time to change that.
So, in addition to people being, worse than ever in a lot of different ways, this is the first year that Cox Automotive in a long time has said that there's going to be a contraction in the automotive industry.
Absolutely.
As someone that's been a GM for a very long time across multiple stores, how do you kind of tackle that, especially with an untrained staff or a staff that doesn't know what to do?
There's a saying in the car business, or in sales in general, but the car business is no different. It's the highest paid easy work and the lowest paid hard work, right? And to put that in perspective, what they have to do is get back to the basics. They have to get back to doing the things that are necessary. There's some simple things in the car business. I don't know, we've mentioned this on our podcast, but when I was running car dealerships, I knew there was a relation to appointments and sales. Now, let me clarify that. A lot of guys say more appointments, more sales. Not true. More appointments that show up mean more sales. So there's a correlation. It's usually a 1-to-1 ratio. What I mean by that is you've got amount of cars sold equals amount of appointments show up plus or minus 10%. Okay. What do you have to do to get more appointments? Well, you got to do some of the basic things. You got to make sure you handle your emails correctly, your internet. You got to make sure that you text when you're supposed to. But more importantly, pick up the telephone and call people and make appointments. And when you make an appointment, the manager needs to confirm that appointment. Okay. Then when the customer gets there, they need to go back to the things that we used to do. Early management intervention, we call it, right? That's getting off behind that desk, getting out there and meeting a customer the first 2 minutes of there and introduce yourself as the manager. Those are the things you have to do. You've got, when times, but like you said, when the business contracts, right? You got to work harder to get a bigger portion of that to keep your sales at where they've been before or increase, right? So you've got to get back to the basic things. And frankly, I don't see these things happening. I don't see sales managers getting off their tush to get out there and talk to customers every single time. I mean, it should be 100%. The silent walkarounds we used to call it, or active appraisals they talk about. You got to start doing those things. When you ask the question, what did I do? This is what I met with my managers about. I said, guys, we've got to do the basics better than we've ever done before. Okay. And that means to find gross, make money, because gross is what you can spend, right? Gross profit. Not only is the business contracting, but the profit margins on new cars are so small now. Any dealer will tell you this, right? They're much smaller than they used to be. So where do you find profit? Well, you find it on the trade, because there's 2 sales going on with every deal. They sell a car to us, we sell a car to them. They outsell us. They come in with a number they want and they stick by their number, but they beat us up on ours because we don't do our job. So doing the basics we have to do. That's in the sales end. At the service end of it, same thing. We've got to get better using technology like video MPIs, things like that. That increases the upsell and the profitability back there. We've got to make sure we meet customers right at their car and we go through the proper processes. So it doesn't change. Every department has a processes, but getting back to the basics, you're right. With a group that's never had to do it before, it's not easy. But if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and that's why we're so unique.
Yeah, Case, we, you and I both love a book called Four Disciplines of Execution.
Yep.
And every time you talk about that, it reminds me of that book. That book is such a good way of, because people want to focus at the end. They focus the number of sales, profitability in the service department, but they don't focus on those little things that you're talking about early on that will affect that big number. All their goals are set on, hey, how many cars am I going to sell? Where the goal should be how many active appraisals am I going to do? And all the things you talked about, setting appointments, making sure that they show up. And you talked a little bit about that. So those little things you're talking about are all early on in the process that have a big effect on that end number at the end of the month.
Yeah, you remind me, Chuck, when you say that of CSI, right? CSI, that's a measurement that people always struggle with. It's not that hard if you identify what you have to do to get a good score. Make sure you pay attention to the time spent with a customer. Make sure you set expectations correctly. Most importantly, make sure you follow up after the sale. Make sure you educate a customer on how the surveys are scored. They don't realize that it's what most manufacturers, they call top box scoring. If you get a top score, you win. If you get anything else, you lose. These are things that you have to pay attention to. It's always the devil's in the details, right? And a car dealership is no different. And going back to what we said about COVID, coming off of COVID, it's made things difficult because people didn't do it. They haven't learned it, and we have to teach them.
I get a kick out of it. I know you've had this happen to you from a training standpoint. We've trained in stores for almost our entire lives. And I get a kick out of when our clients would call us, or some clients would call us out of the blue and go, hey, can you teach my people how to overcome objections? I need to learn how to overcome objections. And you go, if you don't do your needs assessment early on, and you don't do it correctly, and you land the customer on the wrong car, I don't care how good you can overcome the objection at the end of the deal, at the end of the sale, when you're trying to close them, if you haven't got them on the right car in the beginning. So I get a kick out of, hey, just teach my people objections, guys. You got to do all those little things up front early, so much better. And I every time you talk about that stuff, it reminds me of those issues.
Well, it's true. It really does amaze me. You've heard me say for years, and I have no statistics to back this up. This is just experience, guys. And that is, number one reason we do or don't sell a car is putting them on the wrong car. Still happens today. Ask any manager that. They go through it every single day. A salesperson spends 3 hours with a customer. You get to the end, they want to be $400 a month, and you're on a $62,000 vehicle, and they want short-term financing. I mean, really?
With no money down.
With no money down. That's right. And they're $5,000 upside down on their trade. Yeah.
There you go. So that one.
And what happens is managers have to fight to try to make a deal, and they fight so hard. There's only two conclusions there. They don't make a car deal, or they sell a car and don't make any money. And neither one of those conclusions are very good for a dealership. So you're 100% correct. You avoid the problems, you avoid the objections, you avoid these things by just doing the basics. And like I said a minute ago, it's not getting done. But we've got the solution. So we're seeing guys get better, but you got to measure, train, pay attention to the details, know your numbers, know how to get the numbers, make sure morale's up. You'll be successful. But if you don't do those things, you're right, Ryan, with the contraction of the business this year, some guys are hurting, and I'm already hearing it.
Yeah, and that strikes me when you're talking about measure and train, right? I mean, it sounds like these guys got to do these basics. How do we keep them accountable to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, you got to know the numbers, right? You have to know the numbers and the things we're talking about. Pay attention to appointment shows. Pay attention to the basics, and then identify. Data tells a story. And if you pay attention to the numbers, whether it's off a financial statement, whether it's closing percentages, whether it's a gross log you have, wherever you get your numbers, right? Just take those numbers and identify where the problems are, and then train accordingly. And that's what we do, right? We try to get all the KPIs from a dealership that we possibly can. Be it in sales, could be closing percentages, could be phones, could be gross, could be F&I, could be your penetrations, service. It could be your dollars per hour, your effective labor rates, whatever you want to measure, right? Pay attention to those and then drill it down, which we help them with, to the salesperson level, the service person, the service advisor level, whatever. And when people aren't hitting numbers, train them on specifics. We had a store recently that in a month they did 4 brake flushes out of I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of ROs, right? 4 brake flushes they sold. What did we do? We created a training program on how to sell brake flushes. Guess what? Next month they sold 30. Shocker. So that's what we need to do. We need to identify and understand where the problems are and then train accordingly.
As a math major, I can really appreciate the numbers talk there. I like the, especially at the beginning, because I mean, I can even make a physics reference. Like, if you try to put more and more pressure into something, but it's blocked by the customer, the more pressure you apply at the end, it's just going to blow up in your face, literally. That's what happens in physics. And so if you identify everything at the beginning, you make it lower pressure, you know exactly what they want, and then you push them through, it goes right through the funnel, and you sell more vehicles.
I promise you, Nolan, most people that anybody that listens to this podcast and they hear a physics, analogy in the car business, that's probably never been done before.
I'm sure it hasn't been done. I've never taken a physics class. I have no idea. But how we put it made perfect sense.
Yeah, I liked it.
He did a pretty good job. Maybe he should be in charge of sales, Chuck, instead of me.
Yep, I'd love to see us switch roles for a day and just see you interact with the AI. But
no, I think you could do a good job selling. It'd be a disaster me interacting with AI.
Could you imagine Casey prompt writing, being a prompt engineer? That would actually be interesting.
Me?
You?
Oh God, no. With my ADHD, no chance. Oh my God. Yeah, I'd have, the problem is I'd have the prompt built and it'd be pretty good for the first part of it. But when my ADHD kicks in, it'd be like that old joke about, when you say, how many ADHD kids does it take to change a light bulb? Hey, want to go ride bikes? So that would be me. The prompt would be going one way and then it'd be off over here. You wouldn't need AI to put it on hallucinating. It'd be me.
Yeah, I don't think ADHD would go well with the prompt writing role because I personally feel like, throw in some things every now and then while trying to wrangle, as Jonathan would put it, some of these AI, because it'll grade everything right, and then you'll get one example that seems like it should be the exact same, and then one little thing goes wrong and it scores it way off, and you have to redesign the entire prompt just to nail these examples. So
and I've told a lot of dealers, and I could be wrong on this statement. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I tell them, I said, hey, that AI is kind of like an ADHD child, right? It can do a lot of creative things, but trying to get it to concentrate all the time is really hard.
Concentrate. You might want to use both definitions of concentrate in order for that to work.
Why?
By that I mean,
I understand either one. Just kidding. No.
By that I just mean, with AI, it has to be able to take everything and concentrate it down into one scoring system. And a lot of the times it'll just see some things and just literally go on a whole different path with it, just because the different context changes its interpretation of everything. So,
well, that does make sense because people don't understand that ADHD is not most people think it's an inability to concentrate. It's not true. It's over concentration, right? You get so many things going in. Like I tell people, most of my life I'm walking around with 20 windows open in my brain. They're all talking to me, right? So I can see that makes sense with AI. It gets all this information, but it's trying to decipher and narrow it down to one, and it can't because it's too much information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually does.
Yeah, and that's so my analogy is right, but my explanation was wrong. Got it.
And it's also the reason why we've talked about in podcasts about is AI ready to take over and and remove jobs, and it's really not. I mean, our application it blends that human interaction, like Nolan's, like the Kellys of the world, like all of our other people who are actually interacting and looking at the numbers and making sure they're all accurate, and all the stuff that we do has to have human interaction, or it's just not going to be right. And you've got these things out there that are just trying to do all AI, and it's just not going to work. It's not there yet. And take all of our knowledge right now, and because we've all four of us have worked on it with AI for a very long time, and we know it's not there yet. So the concern about people losing jobs and over, I mean, it's like Brian, I think you said one of your videos, it's I take that offensive at sometimes. It's like don't replace my job. You're just not ready yet, right? And so that's why MCT works, because there's that human and AI working together, and that's the best solution.
It's interesting though. I mentioned at the beginning of this about AI fatigue out there. You almost got to be careful talking to people about AI because they've developed their opinion on it. Sometimes they understand it, sometimes they don't. But you're right. There's a lot of misunderstanding about AI, but there's a lot of things that are promoted as AI that aren't either, right? So it's an interesting dynamic that's going out there. But we all know it's a long way off. But it's almost sad for me a little bit because I have to be careful talking about AI because people think they've experienced some bad things, so therefore they think we're bad, we're associated, and ours is pretty good, so not pretty good, it's really good. So it's interesting how we have to deal with that.
I saw an ad the other day for AI washer and dryer. Yeah, how was AI helping a washer and dryer? I just don't, and I think there are people using the letters AI just so they can matter and trying to, it's amazing.
I think, don't you put clothes in, put some soap in and push a button?
I'm not sure why you need that, but
have they changed? I'm not sure where AI can help that process. I think it's pretty simple.
Yeah,
maybe
it can help me with my hairdo. Maybe I can help me grow more hair so I can look like these two young guys.
I think, So well, there's got to be an AI solution for that too. Well, at least we could maybe we can make it look better on camera. Who knows?
There you go. All right.
There is an analogy that I would like to make, but I don't have screen share on, but maybe I can put it up. I'll put an image up while I explain this. But AI, a lot of people describe it as spiky in what it's good at. And so, if you look at math, it's well past human capability. Mm-hmm. But if you look at, and like coding as well, but if you go and look at, interpreting gray area, as Ryan put it a couple of podcasts ago, it's not even close. Like it's nowhere near human. So you'd see that so if you had a circle of capabilities, kind of like a video game, on one end, it would be, way past humans, but on another end, it would just be way below humans. So the circle of human ability, it would be way out here on math and then way down here, right in the middle, basically no ability on interpreting gray area. And so, AI, I wouldn't say it's not there yet, but it's just not there yet in everything. And, that's a great thing for us because we found the spots where it is there yet, and we're taking advantage of it.
Every time you try to take an LLM and you try to make it do something it's not good at, which, interpreting gray area, I guess, is an example of that. It fails. It falls flat on its face, right? So the promise, the blanket promise of AI is the problem. It's a complicated, nuanced topic, but people want generalizations and easy answers, right? So AI is this or it is that. And that's that, preset opinion everybody has right now. Is it good? Is it bad? And that comes down to your understanding and relation with what it's good and bad at,
Well, it's funny how people think it's going to end the world because they've seen Terminator movie too many times. What's that?
Skynet.
Yes.
Skynet.
Yeah,
oh yeah,
Skynet.
That was a computer, right? That took over the world. And I think we're a ways from that, guys.
Yeah, we're okay for now. If there's another big jump and leap in capability, who knows? But we'll see if that ever actually happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just don't give it too much autonomy. That's all. That's my only advice that we all should keep in mind over the next 10, 15 years, maybe less. But I might be closer to the apocalyptic opinion than you guys are, just because I'm like intelligence. It can go from way below us to past us faster than we really want to think about. Sure. Because it's exponentially growing. But that's a whole different topic, and I feel like I dragged us down the AI pipeline here. So
I'm not sure how comfortable I feel, Chuck. I think I'm kind of ignore Nolan on this one because the fact that the person that knows the most about AI is close to the apocalyptic version of it, I'm not sure I want to listen to him anymore.
I got some other folks that are really good at AI too, and they don't feel that way. So I'm okay, like Ryan.
Yeah, introduce me to them, would you? Because I've got to get his thoughts out of my brain now because I'm thinking Skynet, okay?
I think it's more personality style than it is truth of being apocalyptic. There you go.
By the way, that's those both him and Ryan have broken the Waffle House rule here, guys. Apocalyptic.
I break it daily. Come on, I can't help it.
That's right.
I like
those that listen to this podcast don't understand the Waffle House rule. The word can't be understood in a Waffle House. We try not to use it. Which apocalyptic is way outside of it.
That is true. That is.
Now I want to explain it, but
All right, no
All right,
one-
guys. Well, I guess I appreciate it. I guess the last thing I want to say about this is just wrap it up and say, guys, what we at MCT do is get back to the basics. Get back to the basics. Identify what it is. Nothing wrong with technology, but you've got to be able to understand technology. You got to be able to measure and train and pay attention to the numbers. And if you do that, you won't be subject to the ups and downs of this industry to the extent that a lot of dealerships were that aren't paying attention to it.
Exactly. All right. Well, that will be the end of episode 5 of the MCT podcast. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys again next week. Thank you so much, Casey.
Pleasure, guys.
Appreciate it.